Okay, this how-to video is going to talk about relational databases that are available inside the OrCAD Capture CIS. So maybe I've got some fields for existing part numbers, and what I want to do is I want to have maybe alternate suppliers, people like different distributors, etc. That I can output as part of a bill of materials. So the way I would do that is I'd need to set up a specific table inside my my database. So I'm going to go to my database file here. I'm just going to open up this with Microsoft Access. So I've effectively got two very simple examples. I've got a resistors table, that's the main table that I'm going to use, and a distributor table, which is going to be my relational table. So if I open my resistors table, I've effectively got my main, so I've got my part number, my part type, my schematic part, PCB footprint value, a description, a manufacturer part number. And then in my distributor table, I've got effectively, I've got two part numbers, 001 and 002. And if I look at my distributor table, effectively my reference here, I have a part number and then a distributor and a distributor part number. So I'm repeating the part number here and having alternate distributors for these parts. So if I wanted to effectively add another part, let's just insert a new record. I'm going to call it res-00001. Maybe I want RS to supply a part number as well, so I've got an RS-987-654. So that's my RS part number for that one, and I want to add an RS part number for the other one, and this one's going to be RS-. So that effectively then manages the distributor, so I'm just going to save that file and then we'll close that. And then what I need to do is effectively set up an ODBC data source. So we'll go to the control panel of the computer, so start control panel. I've got an administrative tools option, and I've got ODBC data sources 64-bit. So we'll double click on the 64-bit data sources. I'll go to a system DSN and I'm going to add a system DSN, find the correct driver. So I've got effectively a Microsoft Access driver. So we'll click finish. The data source name, so what am I going to call it? I'm going to call this my relational database, and I'm just going to give that as the same as the description. So we'll copy and paste, and I'll select the actual database that I need. And there's my database file. So once I've done that, click OK. That's my data source name made. So I can close all these off. If we then go to effectively OrCAD Capture CIS, under the options menu there's something called CIS configuration, and we can click on new. So this runs a default wizard, so we'll click on next. I'm going to pick the database that I'm interested in. There's my relational database, so that's where the ODBC link comes in. We'll click on next. What table do I want to use? And obviously the distributors table is the relational bit, so I'm just going to pick my default resistors table. I've got some mapping to do for the default field, so part number, and you're just picking fields from the headings inside your database table. So part number to part number, value to value, part type, schematic part, PCB footprint I also want to include. I'm not worried about a piece-price model in this example. I want to transfer these properties to the design. I haven't got any ICA properties. I haven't got any browsable properties, but if you had something like a data sheet, you might want to effectively make that a browsable property. And then what's the key property? Key property is value, so we'll leave value as the default, and then we'll finish. And then I get effectively the configuration database open here to we can have a look at. So you might want to look at things like some default administrative preferences. Maybe you've got a different temporary part number. Maybe you'd rather use not fitted if you're using variants in your design. But the bit I want to hear is the relational database, so effectively the resistors. What's the primary key? The primary key is going to be part number, and the relational database is the distributor. So that's the key part. Obviously I repeated the part number in my distributor table. So we'll click OK to that, and then we'll go and save the configuration file. Just give it a name. Click OK. So now when I go to my page, press Z to place a database part. There's my database, there's my resistors table, and you can see there's my two parts. So if I click on one of them, effectively I get the relational information of RS final and DigiKey. So we'll just add a couple of these down to a design. We'll go back to the Explore window. We'll add some of the other ones. So there's my design. From a reports point of view, so I'll go to Report, CIS, Bill of Materials and Standard. I can basically pick the properties, so there's all the properties that are available in my my database. So I've got item, quantity, value, description. I need to make sure that I list the relational database field, so I want to have the distributor and the distributor part number. And then I need to enable the relational data output, and I'm going to do a maximum, let's just do a maximum of 3 rows, and then we'll go and export this and generate a bill of materials in Excel. So let's just maximize these cells. So effectively you can see there's my resistors, my 2 separate resistors, and then in the bill of materials it's going to give me the RS part number, the Farnell part number and the DigiKey part number.